Welcome back for another Autodesk tutorial. In this lesson, we're going to be doing tutorial 7. So what I'm going to do is, for this lesson, I'm going to kind of follow along in the book a little bit, so I'll be kind of working through it, so bear with me. I just want to try to follow a little bit, just so that I'm going through some of the things that the book goes through, so it just reinforces them when you watch this video after you've completed your tutorial. So, first off, let's just start a sketch. So let's start our sketch up, and I'm going to start on the X and Y plane. I'm going to start at the spot where it has you draw the slot. So we're going to draw this slot. Let's see here. Looks like it's 0.378 wide, and let's see. It looks like it's 0.18. Alright, so there's our slot. And then it's basically telling you to dimension it. Just throw some dimensions on it to constrain it completely. And then on the next page, it has you adjust those dimensions so that it's actually located here. I'm just going to locate it there. I don't see any reason. At this point, you've went through enough tutorials where you know exactly how to do this correctly. So the first thing I'm going to do is, rather than mess with dimensions, I'm just going to constrain that to the center. It's fully constrained already. Now, they did have you put a function in, which was from here to here, and they did it with half of this. I believe this is actually supposed to be 5.0. We need to change some of these dimensions to actually match essentially what they have. So this is 1.0. And I think that's actually 2.0 because they are calling it radius. And then they have you, looks like putting half-inch circles in there. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and add those in. 0.5. 0.5. All right. And then it appears we're extruding this a ½ inch. So I'm going to finish this, and I'm going to extrude this thing ½ inch. So 0.5, enter, and there we go. All right, so the next page, basically what it's telling you is now that this XY plane, and they use the XZ plane, I use the XY plane, but the XY plane in my drawing and also the center point or the origin are the parents to this base feature now. So I'm going to name that. I'm going to call it the base. Oops. Helps if I. XTRUDE. Base extrude. All right. All right. So we're going to create our second feature. It looks like we're going to extrude a half circle. One of the things it does have you do, it shows you to go into view, and you can actually change to a wireframe model so you can see it like this. I really don't like it that way, so I'm going to change it back. I think I like realistic. I think I actually like realistic with edges. Yeah, this is what I prefer. All right, so what we're going to do is, looks like they're picking the XY plane, and they use the XZ. So, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to see what plane we need here. And so we need the XZ plane. And we're going to create a sketch on there. Since I used a different plane, I have to kind of use the plane that I need to use to get this right. And we're going to use an arc center point. So I'm going to select the center point of the arc. And let's see how big it wants us to make that. Create and adjust the radius of the arc to 1.75. So it's going to be a 1.75 arc. And I'm going to make it go 180. And there we go. All right, so we have our arc. So all we need to do now is we need to extrude that. It's saying 2.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and pick finish. And we're going to extrude that our 2.5, but we're going to do that from a symmetric. And hit OK. And there we go. So I'm going to name this, call it arc extrude. And let's move on to the next page. Okay, so the next page, it has us taking a cut, and we're going to, looks like, add a 2x1 cut. So I'm going to click on this face, and I'm going to start a sketch there. And I'm going to pick a rectangle. And I'm just going to make sure that it's kind of constrained to this bottom. I'm going to snap it to there. And I'm just eyeballing it. And I'm going to make this 2.0 by 1.0. And let's constrain that. Divide by 2. That way I know it's centered no matter how big I make this. I also could have constrained the midpoint to that point as well. So there's more than one way to do this sometimes. All right, let's go ahead and cut that out. I'm just constantly looking down just to make sure I didn't miss anything that's critical here. I don't see anything. I think everything looks pretty good. Looks like I got everything, or at least the most important stuff. Okay, so extrude this, and we're gonna go through all, check, and there we go. So there is our part. Now, of course, that has a rectangular extrude in there. And let's see here. So next we are going to add a hole into this. So it appears we're just going to click on the bottom. And we're going to add a hole right there. And that is actually constrained to the center point. And what size hole is that? 0.25. And you can see it's fully constrained. So I'm going to finish that, and we're going to extrude that up through, full cut. Okay, oh, cancel. Let's try that again. I didn't have it through all. Okay, there we go. I didn't have my cut selected. I had it as a join, so didn't really know what I wanted to do there. All right, so everything there looks pretty good. It's just talking about some of the relationships here. But now we're going to go back and we're going to show dimensions on the rectangle. So I'm going to actually walk through this step by step, just to make sure I don't miss anything, because this is where some people have gotten confused in the past. Any change to the parent will affect the child feature. For example, if we modify the height of the rectangle cut from 1 inch to 0.75, the depth of the child feature center drill will be affected. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. In fact, actually, let's call this rec cut, and okay. And they call it a center drill, but that's obviously not really a center drill. Not as we know it anyway. So let's go ahead and actually, I'm just going to click show dimensions for this. Show dimensions. And come in, double click this 0.75. Okay. So that looks good. And let's go ahead and update that. Alright, so it's updated. Alright, so click on the update button. Note that the position of the center drill feature is also adjusted as the placement plane is lowered. So in other words, rather than it just being solid right here, because our plane that we used was up here, we changed that plane, so it adjusts that automatically. When you're adjust the height of the rectangle feature back to 1 inch. So let's go back and change that back. Show dimensions, 1.0. And this isn't anything new. We've gone over this before in other tutorials, but it's always nice to review some of this stuff. All right, so now let's say we have a design change here. So in this next page, it looks like we're taking that rectangular cut and we're actually changing that over to a what appears to be a 1.75 diameter. So now we have a radius in there. So let's see what they want us to do here. With Autodesk Inventor, we can take several different approaches. To accomplish this modification, we create a new model, change the shape of the existing cut by using the redefine command, perform feature suppression, Okay, so move the cursor inside the model key window. Let's right-click. Let's cut on rectangular cut to bring up the option. Click suppress. We're going to suppress this right off the start. All right. So we are going to use the suppress feature. So notice it suppresses everything below it. So if you suppress this base feature, it's going to suppress everything. So whatever's below it, it will suppress. All right. So next, move the cursor inside the model tree. Click once with the right mouse click on top of the center drill, bring up the options menu, click unsuppress features in the menu. So we have to unsuppress this, so unsuppress that feature, and you can see there that it actually unsuppresses everything in that chain. So what we're going to do is go into the next page here, and a different approach to the center drill feature. Okay, so it's asking us to delete. Move your cursor inside the model tree, right mouse click on top of the center drill, bring up the menu, pick delete in the pop-up menu. So let's go ahead and delete it out. And we're going to hit OK. All right, and it wants us to start another sketch. So we're going to start a sketch. And okay, so it's going to have us create this from a different plane now. So for this one, my plane is the XY plane. On their plane, it's the XZ plane. And I am going to slice these graphics so I can see what's going on. I could have actually turned it around too. So if I wanted to do this, I want to turn slice graphics off, I could have also did this and flipped this thing over and worked on there. So let's go ahead and draw 0.25. I believe it's still 0.25. It is. And now the standard feature is no longer cut, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so let's move on and let's go ahead and extrude that through all. Okay, all right, so there we go. And we're going to call this, oops, 0.25 whole. All right. Move the cursor inside. Okay, so we're going to resuppress this. So now when I suppress this, notice it does not suppress the whole feature. That's because it's not based off of anything that our rectangular cut, no surfaces on our rectangular cut, so it won't suppress that because it's not a child of this. The rectangular cut is not its parent. So that's a good way of being able to do these redesigns without having to worry about suppressing something that you didn't want to suppress per se. Okay, so let's move on. Now we're just going to create a sketch. It looks like we're using a plane for this one. We are. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and move forward with this. We're using this plane for when I'm doing it, and I'm going to slice the graphics just because I like that to be sliced. Create a circle. Looks like it's 2.5? Yeah, 2.5 diameter. Okay, finish. And we're going to extrude that through all, make it a cut. Bidirectional. And there we go. Hit OK. And there is our part. Okay, so I just want to keep going just to make sure that I've got everything I need here. Oh, it is telling us to change our material, so I don't want to miss anything. So I'm always making sure that, you know, I've done everything I needed to do. 2.5 arc cut. It's also asking us to unsuppress that one. You get this, and now we could even resuppress this one. And you can see now we have both parts in one drawing. So just a small change to it, and we have them both. All right, let's apply our material. So they're doing it through tools. There's a couple different ways to do this. Tools is one of the ways, and they want aluminum 6061 right here. Okay, and let me slide this out a little bit. is it? There we go. Okay. Why didn't that work? Let me try that again. I think I messed something up. Tools editor. Physical. Okay, there we go. Apply it. Okay. There we go. Did apply it now. So I just didn't have it selected up there. So what it does is it actually brings it up here. It's a little different from past versions. So it brings it up here, and then you have to select it up here. If you don't, it'll just keep it on generic. But you got to select it if it's up here. Okay, so that's a little different. And if we go into our part, I'm going to right-click, and I'm just going to double-check it. Physical, and it is 6061 aluminum. So that's a different way of doing it. I actually prefer to go in and just do it within the eye properties. I just feel like that's a little easier, and it does it really quick. Let's see here. So, oh, it does have us editing some stuff. So let's go in and edit the physical attributes of this. Okay, so let's go into physical appearance. All right, so we can change our appearance. First off, we're going to change our physical, and we're going to change Young's modulus here. Enter 10 as a new value for Young's modulus. Mechanical Young's modulus is going to be 10.0 E6. Okay. Apply. Appearance. On your own, edit the material appearance, glossiness to 50. Okay. So let's make that 50, enter. And we're going to accept the changes, and that's it. Okay, so I'm going to apply, okay. You can see there it actually does have a little bit of a glossier finish on it, as opposed to the dull finish that it did have. So that is all for this tutorial. As always, if you have questions, you can see me during class, or of course you can see me during my office hours.